Welcome to Boring Money, Rich Life. I'm your host, Joy Hicks, and today we're going to talk about what's called the Great Wealth Transfer. A few months back, I read this statistic that said Black net worth will be zero by 2053. And I feel like ever since I read that, I've really been on a search to kind of understand why and just uncover what is happening today that is creating projections that by 2053, an entire race's net worth will be zero. But this week, I've been doing a lot of reading just about like asset protection and wealth transfers and all of these different things. And so right now, we are on the cusp of one of the greatest wealth transfers in history. And the reason for that is because baby boomers are moving into retirement. So for some, this has already started happening. For others, we're going to see this happen over the next 2 decades. So from now until like 2045, pretty much. The reason why this is so big and it's considered to be one of the greatest wealth transfers in history is because baby boomers are getting ready to transfer an estimated $84 trillion worth of assets. That is a lot of money. The recipients of that are going to be like Gen Xers and also millennials. The reason why like this has kind of been something that is really interesting to me is because obviously not everybody is going to receive or inherit money, right? So there's I wouldn't say a few people receiving a lot of money, but again, not everybody in this country is going to be able to partake into the actual inheritance. But I definitely do think all of us can create investment opportunities out of this. So I kind of just wanted to talk about it because it's happening and it's actually very interesting. Baby boomers are considered to be the wealthiest generation right now. And that's a result of the fact that as baby boomers were getting into the workforce, there was like a surge in the economy. So, like factory jobs were a big thing during their time. Also, housing costs were significantly lower, interest rates were significantly lower. A lot of them had pensions at their job. And so they were able to buy really quality assets, quality land, farming, all these different things, maybe jewelry, cars. And so they were able to amass a lot of wealth. I also read an article that was saying a lot of them invested, and not just that they invested consistently. So imagine, being born in what, like the 40s, and then you start investing, let's say by at least the 70s, and you've been consistently investing over that time. So, yeah, sure, there's been some recessions during that time, but we all know the US economy has been growing for the most part, right? Just imagine like how much compound interest they've been able to receive just because of how long they've been able to invest. So, me personally, I'm like, let me start to think of how we can kind of use this to our benefit because, again, not everybody is going to inherit something, but I do think everybody can find an investment opportunity out of this. We know baby boomers were buying homes and things like that. So, you might start to see a lot of people start selling a lot of these homes that they inherit because think of it like this. Let's say a friend of yours, they have a grandfather who purchased some property or some land, but it's in the middle of nowhere. And, your friend who's like 45, they have their own life, they have their kids. They might not want to manage a property in the middle of nowhere where they just don't really want to be bothered with it. So that could be an investment opportunity. So I think the biggest thing is not just feeling bad about the fact that you may or may not be receiving this money. You may not, be able to partake into this different inheritance, but that does not mean that you can't look for different investment opportunities because I think there's going to be like selling of stocks people have been talking about. And then also baby boomers, I mean, they invested in like jewelry and cars and things like that. So I feel like everybody will be able to benefit because there were also some articles that says that the average American blows at least half of their inheritance. So I feel like a lot of people, they like to kind of stunt a little bit. So they might get all of this money, and then, hey, the next thing you know, they want to go on vacation. And the next thing you know, they want to buy a brand new car. And the next thing you know, maybe they do want to upgrade their home. And so there's definitely going to be like a fuel, I would say, in the economy. It's kind of like the lottery. So when you have this person, this average Joe, who wakes up one day and the next thing you know, they're a millionaire, they tend to kind of return back to who they were shortly after they get that money. So I feel like we might see a lot of that where there is definitely a transfer of that wealth to millennials and Gen X, but we might also just see them blow it, unfortunately. So, you as an investor, you have to kind of see where the money is going because one thing they were saying is we don't really know how this is going to impact the market because of course, a younger generation is not going to invest like an older generation did. So like stocks and bonds were pretty much where the money was during their generation. But now we have crypto and we have like micro investing in real estate and all of these different things that really wasn't available during their time or during their generation. So you have to kind of pay attention to where the money is going because, again, you want to start looking for these investment opportunities. Now, I am not a financial advisor, so this is all just education that I'm receiving, that I'm learning personally, just so that way I can kind of encourage you to do your own research. But I would definitely say, like, this is something to pay attention to. And this is something that's going to be happening over the next 20 years. So, again, from now until 2045. So you kind of just want to prepare. So if you're not going to be inheriting a lot of money, maybe right now is the time that you start saving, that you start investing. So then when you do start to see those opportunities, you are able to take advantage. Because I think that's really what's going to put people at a disadvantage. I don't think it's necessarily the fact that some aren't going to inherit it. Of course, that does make a difference, right? But I think what is really going to have the most impact is if you can act on it or not, right? So let's say you don't have any inheritance coming. Let's say you don't have, you know, a previous generation who was kind of looking out. Maybe your family wasn't good with money and you're kind of the first person in your family to start to become more financially educated. That's totally fine, but let's say if you don't have that money coming, plus you're not prepared to invest yourself when this happens and we start to see the bulk of these wealth transfers happening, I think that's what's really going to create such a significant wealth gap. Because we know the wealth gap already exists. There's already a significant wealth gap amongst minorities and, the upper one percenters of the world, right? So I think that's going to be even bigger if you cannot start partaking in some of these opportunities now. I would definitely say, now is the time to at least start getting more financially educated. Now is the time to kind of see how you can start creating your own investment portfolios. Now is the time that maybe you pull back on spending a little bit just so that way you have a little bit more disposable income. But I would also say make sure that you have a good network of people because you want to surround yourself with the people who are also thinking about this. Again, you could be the first one in your family who is becoming financially educated, and that's completely fine. But as far as your friends go and your circle of influence, I would say start hanging out with people who are already investing, who are already maybe involved in real estate, or start reading more books because that's really how I think you're going to find out about these deals. I don't think it's going to just be advertised, on a billboard like, hey, I'm selling my property at a discount. Do you want to buy it? So I would say, like, get financially educated, of course, but also like start getting into some other circles so that way you can network and you can learn and you can leverage your network to also help you as well. So, as always, what is one boring thing that you can do today to start fueling your rich life? I'm Joy Hicks. Thank you for watching and be sure to subscribe.